Well, we come to this. An Eldorado Park family has been left traumatized after a burial mix-up led to the body of a relative being buried on top of a stranger's coffin. The City of Johannesburg is expected to exhume the body, and this after it had forced the Abdull family to bury their grandmother in the grave of Ricardo Hughes. Well, the city had also accused the Hughes family of erecting a tombstone on the wrong grave. eNCA's Govan Whittles is following the story for us, and he joins us now. Govan, good morning to you, colleague. Just give us some context and background here. How did both families find themselves in this burial mix-up?
Yeah, so this is a story of a funeral that happened, or two funerals that happened 10 years ago, and that's when Ricardo Hughes and Mr. Ibrahim Abdull were buried on the same day. And Ricardo Hughes was buried, both of them in the Klipspruit Cemetery. He was buried in grave number 68, and Mr. Ibrahim Abdull was buried in grave number 70. And then last week, the wife of Mr. Ibrahim Abdull, there was a funeral for her at the same cemetery, and then the family went to check if arrangements were going well, and they noticed that the City of Johannesburg's grave diggers had dug up grave number 68, which was, of course, that of Ricardo Hughes. And not only that, they had taken off the tombstone for Ricardo Hughes put up by his family and actually chucked it behind some of the administrative buildings in the cemetery. So they accused the Hughes family of erecting a tombstone on the wrong grave, claiming that Ricardo Hughes was in the grave next door, essentially, and that Mr. Ibrahim Abdull was in the grave where Ricardo Hughes was. And so they forced the Abdull family to bury their grandmother on top of Ricardo Hughes's grave. And they insisted that that was the correct grave. It was only until yesterday when the City of Johannesburg dug up the grave of Mr. Ibrahim Abdull that they were able to confirm that there was indeed a mix-up. It's a mix-up that's caused a lot of trauma, and I was there to see it unfold. Let's have a look at this report.
It's an unimaginable situation, coming to the cemetery to visit your loved one's gravesite and finding someone that was supposed to be buried over there has been buried on top of them. The Hughes family arrived here on Monday to visit the grave of their son who died 10 years ago. But they were enraged when they couldn't find it as the tombstone had been removed.
How can you remove a tombstone without letting notify the people? Is that now right? This is now like a funeral from over, traumatizing from over. That's a new hole, a brand new hole, it's 6 feet. My son is laying there. You're going to dig up 70, you're going to get his people's relatives laying there. You all made a mistake. You all must admit you all made a mistake.
And that's exactly what they found.
The grave here belongs to the Abdull family, the ones that buried last week. So that means the next step is now relocation of the body that was buried last week in 68 to go to 70.
The Abdull family immediately disputed the location of the grave given by the cemetery for their grandmother, insisting it's not where their grandfather is buried.
We had agreed about that.
No, really.
But they were told to leave the cemetery and not interfere.
We actually proposed to them that they give us an alternative grave until the matter is sorted, because we weren't comfortable burying my granny on top of someone and not being sure that that is actually my late grandfather's grave.
The City of Johannesburg eventually did admit that it messed up.
We are very sorry about this. We do apologize actually in all matters that we do. Others, even if it's not our responsibility, because we are here and it happens, we do apologize. That's why we take ownership. That is why we never lie. We own up and we correct when we do that.
And it isn't sure what caused the confusion that's led to a traumatic mix-up.
That's why I'm mentioning this receipt that we got from the undertaker, because we did our investigation. That still points to this grave as the correct one.
But an Eldorado Park undertaker says finding a stranger buried in your loved one's grave is a familiar experience for undertakers in Gauteng.
We've had several experiences where it took place, so I mean I can make mention of it a few times, but you know the list is too long, so I don't even think it will be appropriate now.
The Hughes family has vowed to hold the city to account.
If I say to you,
it's not going to end here. I'm taking this matter further. these are human beings. They might be in that grave, but they are human beings. So it's not going to end here.
The city says they will only be able to exhume the body in 7 days, when the families will gather here to seek closure once again. Govin Whittles, Eldorado Park, Johannesburg.